So this video is on how to upgrade a HP stack. I'm looking at the current high school stack right now, and you can see the version right here is 16.02.0028. In order to join a new switch to the stack, if one were to die, they all need to be the same version before the joining will work correctly. So the first thing is we need to establish the version of the stack as it is before we can go and join a new one to the stack. And we're going to go through and see how to do that right now. Okay, one thing you need to know is that there is on my T drive a folder called switches, and inside that there's a switch conversion upgrade items, and inside that there's this TFTP installer, server installer. Now, I'm on T remote, it's already installed. I would use this version from 2021 if you're using it on a laptop, which you will need to do to upload things to the offline. So basically what happens if I go and start the TFTP server on T remote, and that is under the SolarWinds TFTP server. I go ahead and open that up. Now, what that does is it starts this server, and for the purposes of this server, there's a folder on the C drive, and it gets installed when you install the server software, called TFP root. And this is the folder that you can upload and download configurations from as they are. You can see I've already got two pieces of firmware. This 16.02.0028 is there, and the previous one, because in some cases I had to step upgrade, but in the recent ones I did not have to do that, so I just went right to 16.02. So that's there. It also is all on that switches folder. If you go to the HP switch upgrade items, you'll also see, nope, it's not there. It must be in HP switches. And let's see, where did I put? Oh, there we go. 2920 firmware versions. There they are. So those full files are also right there. Now, the first thing is, how do we remote to and get the existing ones up to a certain level and then get the new ones up to the level? So I'm going to open up PuTTY, and I have two options on PuTTY. I can do it right here, the IP address, which will work to the running server just fine. Or I can do serial, which is what I have to do if I'm plugged into the COM port with the serial connector cable, which goes from my laptop from the serial port to what looks like an Ethernet port on the end to connect. So I can do it directly on either one. If I'm using the serial port, I have to have the SolarWinds TFTP server running on that laptop. If I'm doing it from right now, like T remote, I can do it just like this. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to the maintenance switch, and I'm going to go ahead and connect there. And it says, hey, do you want to do that? Yes, sure. And the username is manager, and the password is the same one we use on our HB switches, which I'm not going to say in this email. So once I'm logged on, it says that I'm already on 16.02.0028 right there. If I wasn't, I would want to do the upgrade steps. I'm going to go ahead and continue. So now I'm I did the wrong one. I logged on to the elementary school stack. That's just fine. I'm going to show you how to do a couple of things. So if I go to that folder, there is a document on there that has these swap out steps, and there's a couple things. First of all, it says how to do a backup of the current configuration. Before you do anything to the main switches, you get a current backup so that when you're done, worst case, you could destroy the whole stack, rebuild it, and reload the config, and it'd be back to the way it was. So this is how you do it. You do this command, the copy startup config tftp 10. Now this is the address of the machine that's running the FTP server, which is the one of this particular machine. And I'm going to show you how to do a backup. I'm going to go to TFTP root. You can see I've already done all of those for this year. I got the middle school, high school, but let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and change the name of this one so that I'm not sure if it would override it or not. So I'm going to copy this command and just drop it right in here, and it will make it download that config, and you can see how fast it is to this computer. So there it is. I just downloaded the esconfig. I could delete this one. I don't know why I need two. Directly to it. Now this config shows all the things that this switch is normally set up for right now. It says what are the members of the stack. It says what all the VLAN settings are for this particular switch, and you don't want to ever have to redo all that because I can reload this configuration, and that's also on here. If I want to restore the configuration, I would do this command, changing the name of the file that I want to upload and the name of the IP address where it's coming from. In this case, it's still T-remote. If you do a restore, it will do the restore and immediately reboot the whole server. So that's important to know. So let's get back to it. We've already done that. We've backed it up. The next thing is to put it on the current version that we've got downloaded to make sure they're all the same. In this case, we already know that it's there. This is what this does right there. It does, if I'm going to copy through TFTP, I'm going to reflash it from this IP address with this file, and that's going to be the primary. I have not updated the secondaries yet, but I could. The primary is the one it's going to primarily boot from. The secondary is if it fails, it's going to boot from that one. So I've got the other one as the secondary so that if there's a problem, I can go ahead and roll back to it. However, that's how you do it. So that's the point of doing this on there. And then once I've got this one up to a certain level, now I'm going to go and I'm going to exit out of PuTTY here and just close it. And then I would come back into PuTTY and I would do it serial to the new one I'm going to add to the stack. Oh, I should have added this too. While I'm on the old one, I'm going to delete that member that I'm replacing. So right now, the command is right down here. It says you go config and then stacking member, whichever one is going to go away, remove. So stacking member 1 remove, that's the top level. And if I don't know what's what, I can go to I closed, no, there we go. I can go here and look. So right now I'm on this and I can see that there are 4 members of this stack, but what member is which? If I go, I have to log in order to see this. And I go to troubleshooting and I didn't log in. Let's try that again. There we go. And I go to the troubleshooting and core dump. Now I can see all the member IDs of everything that's on there. In this high school stack right now, the commander is number 1, and I can see what all those are. If I go to the configuration report, I can also see which one is supposed to be what by MAC address. It says that 9726 which is the 24 port model is, I know that's weird, the 26 is the 24 port, the 28 is the 48 port. Go figure. Anyway, so it lets me see which one is which and which MAC address is which. So I can see if I go to the core dump, it will say missing here. It'll say which one's missing. So I'll know that it's number, in the case of the middle school one I just did, it said missing right here. So I know that I needed to delete number 1. So on here, on my commands, I did stacking member 1 remove. And then while I was there, I said, you have to make sure you've got the right one. If I already know what's going to be added, I say stacking member 1 type and the type of switch that is, and then MAC with the MAC address. I have on the notes here that the MAC address is optional. I did not know what it was. I ended up doing it just like this, and it worked just fine. So I'm preparing the running part of the stack first for the new switch. Then I'm going to go to the new switch and do the same thing. I'm going to go and I'm going to putty to the new switch, but now I'm going to do it through serial. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything about the switch. And there's a command to basically say, hey, this switch, remove everything that it knew before about stacking and start all over again. Okay, so I just went and edited it. So basically on the existing stack, we back it up, confirm the back up the configuration, GUI in, confirm which one's bad, see what version it's on, and if needed, we'll upgrade it to the new version. We'll remove the bad stack from the switch by removing the member. We'll add what the new stack is going to be on the switch, realizing it's still disconnected at this point, powered off. You're just basically setting a spot for the new thing that joins. Then on the new replacement switch, we're going to go through these steps. We're going to install the stacking module. We're going to power it on with it not connected to anything. We're going to putty into it using the serial connection. We're going to use the command stacking factory reset to erase everything on it so it's back to 0. We're going to make sure it's on the same version of the firmware by using the tftp flash command to bring it up the exact same version. Only after all those things are done, it's cleared out, it's on the same version, then we're going to turn it off, plug it into the stack with the stacking cables, and as we power it on, we're going to hold the reset button down for 10 seconds, and on another window, I'm going to have the GUI open to the stack. And what we will see as that happens is that I basically saw it go from missing to adding, or it might have said booting, and then it just came up and said member, and it was on there. Once that is done, then we know it's all on there. Then I downloaded the config again, and I took a look at that config file and said, okay, we'll use this as an example as the config file. Look at the config file, and the only part that I kept was this part, the stacking, because I didn't know what the MAC address was. It didn't turn out being the address from the previous stacking module, which is what I anticipated. So I took that information and put it in the previously downloaded one. So I have all this information on there. All I did was replace the stacking to make sure I had the current right stack. And by the way, this information here where it says member 1 priority 255, it's saying make that one the master. I actually made, because number 2 is the one on this stack with the fiber connection on the back, I had it say member 2 priority 255. So number 2 comes up as the master on the middle school when that one comes up. If I was to switch over here to the middle school stack and take a look at that one, you would see that number 2 is the master. I'm going to log in to see that again. And on a normal boot now, if it doesn't boot right, it's not gonna do that. But on this one, you can see the commander is number 2 because it's who's got the fiber connection. So I wanted to be in charge. And then just whoever comes up next. So number 4 is the standby. So if that drops off, this one will immediately take command of the stack. So I did that. And then when I'm all done and I've edited that, I'm gonna do a restore. So I did a copy the config. So it's going to copy through TFTP. The startup config is going to become temp stack. And as soon as it loads that's going to reboot. And if everything works right on the reboot, then I did one last final time. I did a backup of the configuration, put it on my T drive so that I've got a full backup of that as well. And those are the steps to put a switch in, and hopefully next time you do it, it will be less painful because I did all this for you. And that's it.